Hi, Buns. Today, I'm thrilled to have Jesse Cox here with us on the Buncast, which I guess that's what we're going to call this podcast. This is Buncast. Now, Jesse, I actually heard of you first back in the day from the Cox and Crendor show, like back in 2013 or 2014.
I'm so sorry.
I think that was back in Cata. Yeah, I'm one of those like ancient WoW players that judges time based on what expansion was current. I'm like,
Of
back
course.
in Cata, and
Right.
maybe the era that was. But I discovered you through Crendor's content. Crendor had big influence on me as a creator.
I'm really sorry now. Wow.
And it was amazing. But you're actually still doing a podcast with Crendor. You're doing the Cox and Crendor in the morning, which is a delight.
Thank you.
And so you're pretty illustrious podcaster, my good sir.
I do too many.
Yeah.
Too many.
There's now also the Geek Enders podcast.
Yep.
Is that new? Can you tell me about that one?
Yeah, it's so years and years ago, myself, Dodger, and Total Biscuit had the co-optional podcast, and then TV passed away, sadly.
Right.
And we kind of like Dodger went and had a family and a life. And I decided, hey, what if I wanted to make video games? Because that sounds insane.
Yeah.
So I decided to start doing that. And then we kind of just like got caught up in life. And then this year I went to a lot of conventions, because COVID hit and everyone was like, we're not doing anything. So I finally was like, all right, I'm going to do conventions like crazy this year. And so I did a bunch of conventions. And everywhere I went, every single person was like, man, I miss when you would do a podcast with Dodger. And I finally got the hint and was like, fine, I'll do it.
Yay.
So I messaged her and was like, you want to do this? And she was like, I'd love to do this. And so we're back. And yeah, it's just as stupid as you could possibly imagine.
Oh, it's not stupid. I loved it. I listened to it because,
thank you so much.
I always try to research and stuff. Do my diligence.
Well, you've
definitely
done it.
I will be a regular listener because I loved the Geek Enders that I heard the other day because y'all were talking about aliens and stuff in it. Like it was kind of
whatever,
crazy,
yeah.
But
Yeah,
I
it's whatever
love
you wanna
that.
talk about.
It just felt so playful and relaxed, and it was just a great vibe. So
Well, thank you.
I'll keep listening.
If you like aliens, might I also suggest I have a whole other podcast called Chilluminati, where it's myself and two of my friends. One is a real big believer in paranormal and extraterrestrial and stuff, and one is like a dude who is just always high, so he's like up for anything.
Nice.
And then I'm there to try to ground it and be like, well, hold up, that didn't happen. And they're like, it did though, man. And it's I think that one's on 200 some episodes.
That's
I do
awesome.
a lot.
Wow, that's so many. Is that all the podcasts? Or is there more?
I also do a Star Wars book club.
Star Wars Old Canon Book Club. Okay, that's a trick question because I didn't know about that. Obviously.
Yep, we read old Star Wars books from before the Disney days, and we just finished up the book for Empire Strikes Back, and now we're moving on to the comics from like the 1970s.
Nice.
So you learn a lot. I've learned most of the things that I didn't think came till later were created really early on. So like different types of Star Destroyers and ships and worlds, and they're dropping those names in the 70s, which is crazy. So who knew?
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, we can probably touch on that a little bit later if we get some time. Sure. But I'm new to this whole podcasting thing, so like
all good.
You're really experienced at it, and so like, can you tell me like at the end if you think I did a good job or not?
Doing great so far. The fact that you researched is better than 90% of podcasts. Let me tell you right now.
If I didn't, it's okay. You can just sugarcoat it at the end. That's
No
fine.
way.
All right.
You're doing more work than I've ever done for a podcast. Are you kidding me? This is amazing. You're doing great.
Look, I'm just fangirling a little bit right now because I've been watching you since Cataclysm, and we did play D&D a little bit some time ago.
Yeah.
In case y'all missed it, Jesse role-played this super old, mossy, half asleep Tortolan that moves at like 1 inch per hour. And it was so hilarious. So Jesse, I'm new to D&D, and you and Joe Cat made that just such a memorable and fun experience. So I wanted to thank you.
Thank you.
For that. I really think I do look up to you in a lot of ways. So onto the, like,
Stop it.
yeah. So apart from being a podcaster and a content creator on YouTube, where you have over 1 million subscribers, which is
Crazy.
so many. Do you ever think
Crazy.
about how many that is? And just like, that's a lot. That's what, that's a ton. You have been and are a video game producer.
Yep.
And you're also a voice actor for games like Cyberpunk 2077 and The Witcher 3. You've also done. There are so many things I could ask you about, but let's just
ask away. That's what I'm here for.
There's so many things we could ask you about. Let's start with the obvious.
Okay.
The critically acclaimed Final Fantasy XIV online. Have you heard of it? Do you know it has a free trial that goes up to level 7?
I have, in fact, heard of it, and I am aware that the free trial now goes to Stormblood, which I think is pretty fascinating.
That is interesting. How's your experience been with Final Fantasy XIV?
I love it. I don't. I think I had the experience a lot of people had, but mine was very specifically, I think, tailored to what I was going through at the time. So when I first played, I played way back when A Realm Reborn first came out, and I was still deep into WoW. But every time a new MMO comes out, I will always give it a shot just to try it.
Yeah.
And I think I got to like level 40 something. And admittedly, I'm a huge Final Fantasy fan. So when I played Final Fantasy XI, that's the game I played before I jumped ship to WoW. And the reason why was just because WoW was like, here's one where I don't have to be in a group 24/7 or lose experience when I die. And I was like, oh my God, it's so much better. And so, 11 was fun, but not nearly much as fun as what WoW was when you consider all the jank old school stuff that was in 11. I jumped to WoW and, in between tried my hardest to play. I liked Final Fantasy 12. That was fun, but 13 did not land with me at all. And so, I was like, 14, I can't wait. And so I played A Realm Reborn, and I think it got to like level 40 before I completely checked out. I got to, I think it was the Kurthus Highlands. I got there, or wherever I was, and was just like, nah, I'm all right. And left for a while. I remember doing a brand deal for Heaven's Ward at some point, and I was like, wow, this is kind of neat, but then immediately went back to WoW.
Right.
And then it wasn't until I think it was 2020. We're all in lockdown. I had nothing going on. I was so just like, guess I'll order some tacos again. This sucks. And a friend was like, hey, do you want to play 14 with me? I'm going to check it out. I was like, okay. This also was the height of me being like, yo, guys, I think WoW sucks. And so, and I was just kind of looking for something to do. I hadn't really played WoW in a while. I still have a subscription, but I hadn't really played it in a while. And so I jumped on the Final Fantasy 14 train because I was like, well, I'm already level 40, so I don't have to start at the beginning. Mind you, I had forgotten everything. So I had to watch a few videos to be like, what happened? And I found out really not much happened between 1 and 40, so I was doing pretty good.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then I started playing from 40, and I was doing it for fun. And then one day I was bored because I was like, well, I guess I got to stream something. So I just streamed me leveling like a side job for fun. And people were like, dude, you're playing 14? Oh my God, you can love Heaven's Ward. I was like, I'm all right. I mean, I'm having fun now. And then people just want to see it on stream. So I kept streaming it. And the next thing you know, I'm completing Shadowbringers on New Year's Eve 2021. And I was like, the most emotional wreck. I was like, this is the perfect ending to a shit year. Like, yeah. And it got me. And I think that's when I was like, I think I'm in.
Yeah.
And so I realized I hadn't.
How you've had that experience that so many players do have when they're new to Final Fantasy XIV, where they start with Realm Reborn and then they get lost along the way. They just don't make it through, and then they just kind of give up on it. And it's not a lot of players that do decide, well, why not? Because I actually was in a very similar situation with getting into Final Fantasy XIV. I was also in my era of WoW kind of sucks right now. It was in Warlords of Draenor, and that's when I was like, I'm tired of this. And what. And so then that's when I went over to try FF14. So I kind of relate to that But I don't know if a lot of people have that same like impetus to get them to go back to give it another shot. But it's like once it grabs you, that's it. Like you are pretty much gonna be, held tight in its grip for years.
I'm really curious what the non-streamer version of that is, because a lot of the time when I see people get caught up in it, it's because they not only are enjoying themselves, they also feel like the audience enjoying it, so they want to keep going. But I know for the most part, there's a period probably towards the end of Heaven's Ward into Stormblood where you see a lot of people drop off, especially even streamers who are doing it just for fun, just because it's so much content. Not that it's bad, it's just so much Final Fantasy.
Maybe.
And I think once you hit Shadowbringers, then there's just a push to the end. You're like, well, I gotta see how this ends, and you feel like you want to. But yeah, that middle section, I see a lot of people that I know who are really excited to start playing drop off, not because they hated it, just because there's 18 billion games to play, and as a streamer, you're like, I gotta check them out if I want to do this for a living. So
true.
Yeah, I don't know. I would love to know what the average Joe player who's enjoying themselves,
I think that
what
was me.
keeps them going.
Because I really wasn't streaming or doing YouTube at all until, through Heaven's Ward I wasn't at all. Maybe the very end of Heaven's Ward, but then I wasn't taking streaming seriously until the end of Stormblood. So I think I would probably fall into that category, and I wonder if that affected the way that I enjoyed the game, or if that had been something that's actually a question that I wanted to ask you with your experience with streaming. The FF14 main story quest is something I've asked a lot of people that have streamed it. Did you ever feel like there was pressure on you to react a certain way? Because I have talked to other streamers that told me that they had people upset with them because they didn't react hard enough. Did you experience anything like that?
I didn't. I think the reason why I didn't is because when I was playing, I didn't have any, I don't have any crazy mods or anything in my chat. So, I just didn't look. I just played the game. I didn't look at chat.
So far.
I genuinely don't know, but I feel like no one complained. So I feel like I did okay. But yeah, I was concerned people were going to be like, oh, here comes the cool part. So
that's great.
I just didn't look the entire time I played.
Didn't look. That's hilarious. Yeah. I'm just imagining all these people that were like, react harder, and you're not even saying.
I would never know. Yeah, I'd never know.
So, how was your, I want to ask you, what was your experience with Endwalker like? Did you ever get into the in-game content with Endwalker?
Oh, yeah. I've been floating around in that for a while. I literally was just online the other day trying to grind out my PvP stuff. I'm not good at PvP, so I'll just once a day frontline it and hope to get enough points that I can get a cool thing. But yeah, I loved Endwalker as its contained package. I think 6.1 to 6.5 at the moment is fun. It's nothing world changing. It's not it's big nostalgia bait. I was thrilled by I don't want to spoil too much. The wrap up of earlier plot points that was given in the content. I'm a big lore nerd, so the fact that a game was look, we're going to tell you and specifically answer questions about multiple things we've hinted at, these loose threads. Again, it's the reason why I was I can't do WoW anymore. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
I was so thrilled to get those answers. Were they great answers? It doesn't matter. I got them. And I felt good and was happy. It was all right, we're done with that.
It's very satisfying to finally be able to put all those loose puzzle pieces together and feel this is such a nice fulfilling conclusion that I feel was planned out well just for my satisfaction at the end.
Sure.
There's a game that does this really well, and you're not going to want to hear it.
Go. Are you about to tell me it's Genshin? Is that what we're about to hear?
Yes.
I only hear good things about Genshin. I have a curse. I must tell you this. Something about me, I don't know what it is. Years ago, I'm just going to give you the whole rundown. Years ago, I played Minecraft, and I was like, well, this is fun, but it's not going to be anything huge. Stop playing. Years ago, I played a little
Oh.
game called Fortnite and was like, well, this is fun, but it's
Oh,
not going to be
no.
anything big. Stop playing. And then years ago, played Genshin, was like, well, this is cute, but it's not going to be anything big. I have terrible. I once said, well, who the hell's going to use a Switch? A Switch, like, it's a console, but not a console. Like, that doesn't make any sense. I am constantly wrong on my hot takes. So will always admit when I'm incorrect because I'm frequently wrong. So,
I am also
yeah.
frequently. I had the same reaction to Genshin originally. I played it a little bit and I was turned off by it. I'm like, oh, this is just all waifus. It's just anime stuff only. And I was really negative about it. And then I went back this year and I gave it an honest try. And I was really blown away by the way storytelling is done, which is like you described. They give you lots of little hints, and they're meant to guide you towards coming to conclusions on your own. And so that when you finally do see the truth, it's like... Anyway.
Look, it was great. Poor Paimon. I hope that's what that character's called. The third person speaking, I was like, stop. Just stop. Please stop.
You might not, if you don't like Paimon, you might never get over that.
You may be right.
But she becomes pretty sassy, and that's funny later. But
I'm here for sassy, yeah.
So, do you have any favorite character from FF14? This is a question I love to ask people.
Sure.
Favorite?
Favorite character?
Yes.
Obviously Tataru's queen, so, I mean, like, that's a thing. Permanent favorite. But, I'm trying to think of something unique. I don't want to say like my favorite character is
don't say
Estinian.
Don't say
yeah.
Estinian is
Stola's
the correct
great.
answer. That's fine.
I would say that I am a big fan of the way they grew the Scions. I like all of them a lot from where they started.
Oh, yeah.
Alphino, terrible, and now incredibly tolerable.
True.
Alice, I love the sass. Stola, I love that she's like full-on mom of the group. I love that, you know, they made Thancred more than just like, I flirt with ladies, right? They made Estinian actually have a character, right? Urian J is actually doing things besides like, I'll leave for half an expansion and then return, and you'll be like, why'd you lie to us again?
Yeah.
They like...
Sus.
Yeah, they gave everyone sort of they all grew up, and I love that. But I don't know. I feel like characters that I'd love to see more of would be was it Hilda, the woman from
yeah. Oh,
she's great. And then she
great.
dropped off so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, things like that.
I agree. So we mentioned a second ago about how that's why I'll never go back to WoW. About like the way the storytelling has been presented. For a lot of us, it's been pretty frustrating. We had Novel on last week, and I talked to him a fair bit about that because that's been his focus. And even for people who haven't been following the lore that closely, Shadowlands in particular was like pretty devastating for a lot of us who care so deeply about some of these characters we grew up around. So can you tell me about how that happened for you? Like how your opinion on WoW now and everything?
Yeah, I think I've been living vicariously through Krendor for Dragonflight, and I haven't played any of it, but I've seen some of the cool stuff they've done. I've come to the conclusion, I probably knew this years ago, but I think it's supremely accurate, that Blizzard can tell great small-scale stories or like zone-based stories or one questline stories, but the overarching narratives they create are nonsense.
Yes.
They're just insane nonsense. And I feel like that's kind of the reverse in Final Fantasy, where Final Fantasy, sometimes the small stories are like, okay, glad I did that, versus the big story, we're like, oh, it's so cool.
Yeah, true.
And the thing about WoW is that when you're invested in something that constantly changes the investment, a great example, this is a minor spoiler for something not even game related, but I'm sure everyone's seen... I'm going to keep talking about this all week. If you've seen any podcast that I've been on, I will never not talk about this because it drives me crazy.
Okay.
there is a show on Netflix. Well, I mean, originally there was Squid Game, which was, you know, a very popular series. But now they have like a reality TV show version.
Okay, on Netflix, but it's not the original.
No, it's just like 400 normal people show up to pretend they're being shot. It's insane.
Okay.
Like the first episode is that red light, green light thing where, you know, they, in the TV show, it's terrifying because they got to run across or they'll be killed. In the reality show version, it's a bunch of people who I think the producers told, if you get shot, lay on the ground and pretend you're dead. But half of them, they get shot and they go, oh man, like walk off. It's insane. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. But like any reality show, most are like 15 to 30 people on the show. So you have time to learn about them. You have time to care. You have time to pick your favorite, right?
Right.
In this show, there's 460 some people, and they pick people to care about, but most of those people are killed off. So where your focus of who you're supposed to care about constantly changes. And you're like, well, how can I root for anyone if everyone is constantly being murdered by this game? It unlike the TV show where there's a main character, there's not really a main character in this. You don't know who to follow, and it's insane to watch. And I know a lot of people are like, it's very good. I like it a lot. The games are cool, but for reality, for a story, it's non-existent. It's insane. And I think that's WoW. WoW is the same way, where it's like, all right, what I'm seeing is kind of cool. I like this bit. I like the thing they did here, but I have no one to root for because I'm constantly changing who I should care about.
It sounds like a really common complaint that people had about the Warcraft movie because, you know, we have this, Blizzard is very good at world building, and they built this vast universe for the movie, and that it was bouncing all over the place. And they were talking about incredible stories, like, you know, what happened to the king, what happened to, like, how he was assassinated, and all this stuff that happened with Thrall and his parents. Like, this is fantastic stories within the world of WoW, but if they had just focused on one, it would have been way more emotionally impactful. But it's almost like they're just scattered everywhere, so you don't really, you don't notice what you need to notice.
The thing they should have done is honestly what the D&D movie did, which was, we're just going to tell a story of a group of people that are forced to be together and they have a mission. Like if it was a story of like a dwarf and a human and an elf who were on a quest, and then an orc was caught up in some stuff with them, and they all had to join forces and go take down some like demonic wizard guy. And it could have been like they could have thrown in tidbits that fans would have loved, but also kept it like, it is a world of Warcraft, right? It's not like it's all about Thrall and always is about Thrall. It doesn't have to be.
True. Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't have to be. And I feel like they missed the mark on that. Like the beginning of that movie is the fastest 45 minutes in the world. And then finally it slows down because they're like, well, we had to world build. Like, you didn't really have to.
You really
didn't have to do anything. You could have told one. You're absolutely correct. They should have told one story.
Yes, it's one thing I usually use as I think a good example in Final Fantasy XIV where that is done really well, where you just have a small story that's not even connected really to anything else that had such a big emotional impact, was the story of Seto. So if you've done Shadowbringers, you might have encountered, there's like this Amuro who's basically like a dog, okay? It's basically like this talking old dog.
He's the best boy.
And there's a small little story, like it's a side story. It's not even related really that much to the main. It's kind of, but you know, side. And Seto is just this old dog who misses his master who's been gone for a really long time. And that's it. That's it. And you just talk to him about it, and you give him memories from, you know, you try to tell him about his master who's long gone. And it's like heart-wrenching. I'll never forget this. Everybody remembers Seto because it was simple. It was just one character, really, maybe two involved. And that's it. So it doesn't have to be complicated to be a good story. Maybe that's why in World of Warcraft, side stories tend to stand out so much, because they're forced to focus on this one character. Like Tyvan, I don't know if you've seen that quest line from Dragonflight.
Yeah. I've been snooping on people playing to see what's going on. Yeah, absolutely.
So when are you gonna play? When are you gonna play, Jesse? What are you doing? You're just watching other people play all the time. Come on.
I'll be honest. So I had the revelation while watching BlizzCon. I was like, oh my God, they got They got the 3 new expansions. I was like, oh, are they finally going to do what I just want them to do is wrap it up? Like, answer the questions, and then maybe, I don't care if they move on to something, like, just give me the answers and wrap it all up and complete the story. And so that hyped me as hell. And obviously Metzen can sell me on anything. And all that was great. And I was like, yes. And then Season of Discovery showed up, and I was like, yo, that looks amazing. I may go back. And the minute I realized I got caught up in the hype machine is when I had a bunch of friends start playing Season of Discovery, and they were like, yeah, it's all right. I was like, no, they got me. It's
amazing. You just need to join our guild. I'm in a guild with Nobble and Preach. We have a guild you can join right now if you want.
I could.
You could. We are raiding. We have BFD raid going twice a day, every 3 days, Jesse. Amazing. You can totally do it.
The problem is, I lived that life for 15 years. I remember doing those raids. I remember being stuck in Molten Core. Like, it's part of me is just like, I don't know. It reminds me of, I'm very worried that I'm gonna have the same reaction as when I went back and played Star Wars The Old Republic. Like, I played it when it first launched, and I loved it, but I got to Endgame and there was nothing to do. So I waited a few years, and everyone's like, yo, this new expansion's amazing. So I was like, okay. So I went back, gave it a shot, and I was so just like, this game doesn't look great anymore, and I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm worried I'm gonna hit that, where I'm gonna jump back in and just be disappointed, and I'd rather just have good memories. I'll be honest.
Well, really, the heart and soul of World of Warcraft has been and always will be the community and the players. So if you're with people that you like, you're gonna have a good time, man, no matter what. Anyway,
you're not wrong, though. You're not wrong.
So,
it really is about.
I mean, okay, maybe later you won't like it. Who gives a crap? That's later. That's a later problem. That's a future Jesse problem. So you don't have to worry about that right now. Anyway, man. Life is short, okay? And so we're just trying to squeeze as much little juice of happiness from the life's lemons. Did you know I read that life did not give us lemons? They were genetically bred to be lemons. Isn't that crazy?
There's like something crazy. I know what you're talking about.
They're not even real. Like, well, they are, but they're not they're unnatural.
Yeah, there's like there's something else that's in between a lemon and an orange.
It's a sour orange.
Yeah.
And there's black magic. Basically.
I mean, I believe that. That sounds like science to me.
Anyway, one thing here's a tough question. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Okay.
So how do you compare the community and culture of World of Warcraft players to those of Final Fantasy XIV?
I've thought about this a lot over the years. I think that the difference is small, but it makes a huge difference. I would say for the most part, the cultures are relatively the same. When you're a streamer, you're not, for the most part, your in-game culture isn't going to be too different because everyone's trying to be nice because they potentially could be on stream. You know what I mean? But 14, I think, is welcoming in a way that WoW isn't, because WoW has a built-in "you're my enemy" mechanic, where the idea of
Horde and Alliance.
Yeah. Where the Horde and Alliance are always butting heads, even if they're, as much as WoW keeps trying to be like, we're all together to save Azeroth. Nah. Some dude ganked me, and I will never forgive him, and I will find an Alliance player and kill them whenever I can. Like, that's the vibe.
That's the cycle of life.
Yeah, there's already a built-in "you're my enemy" mechanic, and then that aggression translates a little bit into we not only need to be better than other guilds, we need to be better than other factions, and we need to be better. And so there's this sort of one-upsmanship, and everyone needs to keep up to that, right? Because like Final Fantasy, for what it is about story.
It's not competitive. It's not a competitive game at all.
Yes.
It's not a cooperative game.
Yeah, and even the things that are competitive for like a week, and then it goes back to normal.
True, yeah. I think that probably does have an influence on how people communicate.
Yeah, and WoW is a very competitive game, be it Mythic Plus or the Raid. It's all super competitive, and everyone's trying to be first and the best or get better gear. And in order to get better gear, you have to have a good team. In order to have a good team, you have to have good players. And it opens up the thing of, well, you suck, so we don't want you in this group. And it happens all the time.
Well,
as a person who played an enhancement shaman, trust me, I'm aware. People were like, just play something else. Like, enhancement shaman.
I also played a shaman at a time when it was very unpopular. And so I feel you. It was very bad. They're like, oh, you're a shaman. Yeah, it's not gonna... I have a painful truth for you that I've noticed from playing World of Warcraft lately. And it is that I've noticed the community has gotten nicer and more mellow. And I think it is because we are old. I think it is because we're getting older. And like a massive amount of the community is just old as hell. And as you get older, I'm sorry, you are going to chill out. It doesn't matter how pissed off you were. You will let go of things easier. And so I've noticed it has mellowed out a bit. Anyway,
and you can see that on Twitch communities. If a streamer is older, the older you get as a streamer, the more mellow your audience is because they age with you.
Yes.
And you set an example of like, you're not 19, chill out. We don't have to say that stuff. We don't, yeah.
It's great, actually.
Yep.
Another question I want to ask, do you feel like in MMOs in general or with RPGs that there's like a favorite character archetype or a class that you tend to gravitate towards just naturally or not?
I always start thinking, this is the day I make a character who is some like casting thing. In WoW, I was like, what if I made a mage? That'd be amazing. In Final Fantasy XIV, I was like, what if I make a black, a black man? Here's the problem. I realized that they're far too slow for me every time. I hate them every time, but I have this vision that I will like it. And every time I'm like, this sucks. Why'd I pick this? And so eventually I transitioned over in WoW, for example, I transitioned over into a shaman. And what sucked for me in WoW is when I first started playing, my friends were like, oh, dude, shaman you can either be like up front and be like melee, or you can be a caster, or you can be a healer. And I was playing with two other friends at the time, and one already pre-called melee, one already pre-called caster, so I had to be healer. And I was a shaman healer until the end of Cataclysm.
Okay.
I played nothing else. It was atrocious.
Oh my God.
I was so beat up the entire time, like, oh, why am I doing this? So when I finally got to play melee, I was like, I'm never switching. I'm not gonna heal. I'm not gonna cast. I'm not gonna do anything. I made an alliance character just for fun. I made a paladin because I was like, well, I want to see what the alliance story is. So I had a paladin that was, I think it was a ret paladin, and I had my enhancement shaman, two classes that genuinely during the time no one gave a shit about, but I didn't care. I was like, whatever, I'm having fun. And then for Final Fantasy, I was like, Black Mage sucks. And everyone's like, try Red Mage. And I tried it and I was like, oh my God, so fast. I feel like I'm pressing buttons and doing things. Yeah. That's what I need. And so I learned that about myself is I'll always try to be a caster because I like the idea of sitting in the back and just unloading high damage, but I get so bored.
Yeah.
So quickly.
It can. Well, the more chaotic stuff is going on around you, the less bored you will be. That's the one thing that I do. Yeah. I've noticed. Yeah. So have you tried tanking at all? Have you ever tried that?
Yeah. In WoW, I made a druid, so I bear tanked a little bit. And in 14, I have literally every job unlocked, and at this point 90. And I have my mains right now are Red Mage and Warrior. And Warrior is just like you don't have to be smart to play Warrior.
I love Warrior.
Yeah, Warrior's great. It's my favorite non-Red Mage job. I literally just spam all the buttons and then press the one that heals me when I attack, and I just live my life and I don't have to think about anything. And there's a good part of me that enjoys the fact that for some bosses, everyone else in the group can be dead and I can solo and kill it. And I'm like, I am your god now. Oh yeah, it's great.
Yeah. What do you think about the idea of tanking as a shaman? Do you think that would be cool to ever try?
It used to be a thing you could do, or at least was promised. Back in vanilla, you could, in theory, shaman tank.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then they removed it. I mean, that's one of the things that upsets me about, like, when I first played World of Warcraft. This is a story I'll tell all the time, but it speaks to who I was at the time.
Okay.
In beta, the promise from the WoW devs was every single race class combo could become a hero class. So, for example, if you were a hunter and a blood elf, you become a demon hunter. If you were a dwarf and a warrior, you become a mountain king. I'm trying to think of what the other ones were, but the one that I was focused on was because, I just played Warcraft 3, and so I was in love with like Arthas and the Death Knights and stuff. It was if you played an undead warrior, you could become a Death Knight.
Right.
And so I was so hyped. And the fact that for some reason during beta, only female undead crawled like the ghouls in Warcraft 3. And so I made a female undead warrior. And I was so hyped to play his character, and I was like, I'm gonna be a Death Knight. This is gonna be amazing. But also I crawled like a ghoul, and I was like, this is so cool. And everything was going great until all my friends were like, hey dude, we're gonna join the biggest guild on the server. You're gonna love it. It's a roleplay guild. I was like, okay. We show up to the first meeting, which was in the throne room in Undercity, and the guild leader's like, all right, I just need to remind everyone that while we are playing, we are in character at all time. And I was like, wait a minute, so I gotta be a female undead the entire time? I was like, no, I'm all right. And then shortly thereafter, they got rid of the hero classes, and then brought them back slowly later, but they got rid of that. So I was like, what kind of job or class would I want to be? And I just kept looking through them all. It's like, when it goes live, what would I want to play? And I just decided that I liked trolls because their entire mechanic was they get high and see visions. Yes. So I made a guy named Mojo Maker, and he's been around ever since.
That's awesome.
Yeah. What
if I told you you could shaman tank right now?
I have heard this. Yep.
Yeah, that's the thing in Season Discovery. And the hero classes that you mentioned, that's War Within stuff that they're adding. So I feel like all those people that wanted those things back then are now working at Blizzard.
That's why they were getting me. That's why when watching this stream, I was like, oh, is this the time? Yeah.
It felt like that. I was there. But anyway, so I actually did listen to some of your Star Wars podcasts, the book club, Star Wars book club, because I'm a big fan of Star Wars. And there was one thing that was mentioned in it that I think is actually really relevant to MMOs and RPGs that have vast lore, is that, and this is something I thought about ever since, so this is why it's a good podcast, right? Is that sometimes in trying to over-explain and give reasons and technical readouts for everything, you can destroy the magic by erasing the mystery that makes things, like, it's almost what's not said. That's often what we remember most. Like, it's what's not seen that's the most scary in a horror game. It's what's makes the Force, for example, so magical, was that it really wasn't explained that well. And so it gave us that space and that freedom to imagine it however made sense to us. Like, so what do you think about that in relation to the way MMOs, like the way that storytelling is done in modern MMOs? It was kind of an open-ended question.
I think that going back to the Star Wars bit, I know many people who love the Han Solo movie, and there are parts of that I like a lot. But the fact that they try to explain like, Han Solo's cool because Han Solo was mysterious. Like, was all his stories true? Was everything? It doesn't matter because he's like the coolest guy in the room, and it's fun.
Right.
And I think the prompt, and again, someone in chat just said, Nibiukru, I hope I said that correctly, said, Alan Wake, I love the Alan Wake series. I love all the Remedy games because they'll explain stuff, but there's so much left open that they'll never explain that it keeps the mystery going. And as it all starts to connect, you're like, what does that mean? What does that mean? And I love that stuff.
Me too. I love when you get an answer, but you also get 10 more questions.
Yes, so good. And I think... And I would say that for Final Fantasy XIV as an example, you can see why people love Shadowbringers the most, because it answers so many questions and then dumps like 15 more questions on you. And they're not just small, they're huge, world upending questions. And sure, we get answers in Endwalker, but answers are never quite as fun as the questions.
True.
It's just like when you watch the show Lost. I loved Lost. It was my favorite show in the like early 2000s. The first couple seasons, I was like, what is happening? And then when they start to answer it, you're like, that's the answer? And it's never as good as you want it to be.
Yeah.
But I love I would listen to a podcast that was people on the Hawaiian Islands who were like sneaking into film sets and like, today we saw all these characters together. What could that mean? And I was like, I don't know. What does that mean?
What does that mean?
Yeah, I love that stuff. And I think, one of the reasons why Shadowlands, for example, wasn't as thrilling as I think they wished it was, is they gave us answers to things we didn't need ever. Like they were like, what happened to this character? This character? What's the afterlife like? Who cares?
Yes.
Right? Who cares? And meanwhile, there's all these other things, like a giant ass sword in the planet.
Yeah.
That they were like, nah. It's like Marvel. Marvel put a man in the planet, and then it's been years, and they've never once addressed it. And it's like, well, talk about that. I don't give a damn about the Marvel's bracelets. Who cares where those came from? What's the man in the ocean? Like that kind of thing it drives me crazy. And so while I think went about trying to answer stuff that they thought was cool rather than what the audience cared about. And I think that's why a lot of people in the audience were disconnected from that entire expansion. And even Dragonflight, really, they brought the dragons back and they introduced new evil dragons, and it's like, okay, but do we care? And it took until now to have, we're going to have a 3-story arc where all those things that we've been dodging for years are finally going to answer. The question is, by the time we get to the third game, will the answers be worth it? I don't know, because they tried to set stuff up like, I'm the jailer and you don't know anything about me, but I did the things I did because there's worse stuff coming. Like, oh yeah? Well, cool, dude. And so maybe we'll get answers to that, but I feel like for the most part, WoW can't give answers, and that's what makes it frustrating, because they don't like hint at things, because they can't hint at things, because every single time it has to be bigger than the last one.
Yeah.
And that's just, and that could be why a lot of people for 14 right now are kind of like, yeah, I'm taking a break or I'm doing other things, because there's a period at the end of 14. We hit an end and they're going to do a new sentence, a new paragraph. And that, for me, Final Fantasy XI, the reason why I left is because there was a story arc. I beat the story arc and they were like, more's coming. And I was like, I'm going to go play WoW.
Well,
and so I very much understand it gives you an out to walk away. And WoW does not do that. WoW is like, the next boss is even tougher and crazier, and the next expansion's even more insane. You always feel dragged in.
I gotta stop you there, because I just realized, just from talking to you, that there is a way to make it bigger and bigger every time, and that is to leave it unsaid, because the only thing that can be infinitely vast is space. So like, if you can just, instead of giving the answer of here's the bad guy who's bigger, be like, here's a bad guy and we don't even know everything about it or him, or we don't know what it is, but it's like, in fact, this is a way to expand things without over explaining things. Actually, you brought up Final Fantasy XIV, and I think this is something that made Shadowbringers successful that people don't think about that much, is the lead up to Shadowbringers. Between Stormblood, at the end of Stormblood, there was this long period of time where we were getting, like, people were vanishing and we didn't know why. And there was like months of time when the community is losing our minds because we're all like getting whispers from beyond and we don't know who is talking to us. We don't know why people are going away. They're just vanishing. We're like, is the rapture happening right now? And people were losing it. So of course, when Shadowbringers release, we're all hyped to find out what happens. And I think Endwalker hasn't done that for Dawn Trail. So we're just waiting for Dawn Trail.
But I think that's because like I was saying, Endwalker's a period. There's who knows what happens in the next one? And anyone trying to predict what's going to happen, except for the obvious, which is we start out, everything's okay, and by the end, we're all like, what have we done? That's definitely going to happen. Yeah. But Shadowbringers is fascinating because you're totally right. I played through it, all those lead-ups, over the course of a week, right? Like, I didn't have months in between, so I didn't have that stress of what is happening.
Yeah.
But what's fascinating is I can imagine the idea of all of that happening, then you end up in Shadowbringers, and in Shadowbringers, they answer, okay, this is what was happening. But then they drop multiple lore bombs on you that are world changing.
Yes.
And it's like, oh man. So at that point, you're like, what the hell is happening? And the lead up into Endwalker, which I thankfully got to be a part of, there was a lot of like, what the hell is this even gonna be? And
Yes.
I love that kind of stuff. I'm obsessed with the fact that I was just thinking as you were talking about not showing stuff. One of my favorite bits of old school vanilla WoW. I remember this like it was yesterday. It made me so happy for those who don't remember and are watching or listening, original World of Warcraft. There was, if you played Horde, a lot of it was bare bones. Desolate, the areas over the plague lands, there was no quests. There was nothing going on there. And for the most part, you just ran around killing stuff once you hit 50. But there were some places you would go where you would find weird little lore tidbits. And I don't remember, it was one of the old one of those where you found the discs. And the discs were like, yeah, the discs were like, there's this weird thing going on. And if you take these to the one entrance that's blocked off, you get some more lore. And it's like these titans and old gods and things that were so beyond what the game was. Yeah. And I was like, yo, this is some Cthulhu stuff. I love this. And they didn't mention it in like they had a little bit of, you know, when they were talking, when you went to like fight the buggy guys and you fought Cthulhu and stuff like that. And it was like, yo, that's so cool. But they kept mentioning like these titans, these things in space. Yes. And I would have loved it. I feel like they definitely, when it came to Wrath of Lich King, I hope that was the expansion. When it came to that, literally, like, they put everything in there. They had old gods, they had titans, they had the Lich King, they had everything in there. And I feel like they blew it too early then. Like, if they would have kept all that stuff on the back burner and just slow rolled it and kept slow rolling it, it would have given me a through line to be like, what the hell is this game really about? Yeah. That would have been amazing to have, like,
best feeling in the
world.
We're
sitting here, we're like fighting the Lich King or Illidan, or we're fighting pandas or whatever the hell we're doing. But in the background, there's like, imagine if it was reversed. Imagine if instead of knowing about the old gods and the titans and all that stuff, when we got to Pandaria and there's weird Shaw creatures and things, they're like, what are these? And they're like, we don't know. They just came from like some... To have that all come together in the end is like, it's part of this crazy war. That would have been so much more fulfilling then. We already knew what was going on.
True. It's just sometimes I feel like in their enthusiasm to polish things, and this is true for a lot of media. It's true for games. It's true sometimes in some cases for movies, like with Star Wars. In their drive to, you know, as a writer or as a developer, polish things up and have explanations and have it all neat and tidy, which is, you know, natural. You lose some of the jank and the imperfections that make things real, because in real life we do not have answers to almost anything. We don't have anything figured out, and really, so maybe that's why it's just more relatable. Whenever it's like, how can you tell if a flower is real? Well, you look to see, are there any dead ones? Like, is it ugly in any part? Like, is there anything falling off? Is it like burnt on sides of the leaves? That's how you can tell if it's real. That's what you look for.
But even then, the best part about that is your brain interprets things and makes it real, right? Like, everything you see is just interpreted by your brain, and that's what we see. So even then, is it? And those questions,
no, nothing's real.
Those philosophical questions, it's like, how do we know anything is real? That's why they say the only thing that you know for sure is real is yourself. And even then, I'm not even sure.
So, dude. I don't think
like, and that's fascinating to me, because you can always say, this isn't real, this isn't real, this isn't real. You can go down that, like, philosophical spiral.
Yes.
But when you're just given answers to things, it ruins the fun, kind of. I absolutely agree.
I completely agree with that. So moving on here, one thing that I did want to ask you about, because this is kind of hot news at the moment. Okay. Very hot. Spicy hot news.
Spicy hot?
Oh, flaming hot news is that Twitch is now allowing the artistic nudity following the viral topless meta that was very popular on the site. Now, I do think this applies to fictionalized nudity, but I looked last night.
I just streamed last night, and I was told, go look at art.
Yes.
A lot of hentai over there. I mean,
you can
good on them, I guess.
You can do pole dancing. You can't. You can wear BDSM attire. while licking your microphone for the entire stream if you want to. Do you feel like this has opened up some new doors for you, maybe some new types of content that you might want to explore on Twitch in the future? Because, the rules are changing and we got to keep up as creators. So have you thought about it?
I have thought about it frequently. The consensus I come to is that I don't want to take views away from other people. I am content with where I am, and I have no need to be the most popular person.
Nobody can lick a microphone like you can, Jesse. What are you talking about?
I don't want to be the most popular person on Twitch. Like, that's a lot of pressure. And I don't want those people coming for me. They're gonna be like, he's just stealing our views. I don't want that.
Okay, that's true.
I don't want that.
Shit.
I will say that if I felt comfortable enough with myself, in a heartbeat, I would be like shirt off, doing like crazy. I already do enough crazy stuff. If I was like comfortable with me, oh my god, I would do that in a heartbeat. Are you kidding me?
I was telling the stream that this morning. I was like, y'all, I'm just too peepo shy. Like,
yeah.
More power to these people who are so brave to do that on a camera. Are you insane? I couldn't do it. I'm too shy. Yeah. But all power to them, for real.
Yeah, if it's your brand, if it's
yes.
Like, I long ago believed, and I still believe, that the crossover audience between like what I do and what a person who's pole dancing, I'm not even remotely threatened or worried. Do your thing, have fun. Like, Twitch has so many people looking for so many different things, and everyone has a different audience and a different vibe.
Yeah.
And everyone's a different streamer. So like, enjoy.
Totally
What the hell do I care?
I think it's good that people are, chilling out a little bit about their sexuality and stuff. That's probably good for the future. But anyway, this is too lewd of a discussion, so let me change the subject. This is getting weird. Okay, so you did produce a dating sim called Monster.
I did, yeah.
How do you like that segue? I did.
It was good. I liked it.
I wanted to ask, did you put a yandere character in that game? Because I do play dating sims, and I really like the ones with the male yandere where like you can get locked up in a cage. I think those are really good. Do you have anything like that in that game?
Yeah, so
yes.
Monster Prom is a game that is mostly a party game. The idea is that you would play it with friends, and the objective is to try and get a date to prom. Or if you play Monster Camp, the sequel, or Monster Road Trip, they all have little different spins on the idea. Like, Monster Road Trip is slightly more Oregon Trail than it is Monster Prom. But the idea is that you are doing stuff with your friends in game or in real life, and you're playing together. And Monster Prom, for example, is maybe you and your friend fall in love with the same character. So now you are actively trying to make sure your friend can't get a date to prom with that character.
Oh,
but then based on how much you woo them or the character woos you, you might ask them to prom and they may reject you, right? Or you may go to prom and go by yourself, because that's the thing you can do. Or you may unlock the orgy ending where all the characters and you end up in a hot tub.
No way! No way!
Yeah.
I don't believe it. Is it 18 plus?
It is not.
Is there nudity?
There's no, like, you're not going to see a bunch of nip, but it is the writing is very 18 plus. Like, a lot of the jokes are 18 plus. A lot of the in order to unlock the orgy ending, you have to collect items, and one of them's like a penguin mask, and one of them's guacamole, and you keep asking what it's for. And one of the characters, Polly, who is this ghost, she's like a party girl, but like, the goof is you never know how she died, and every time, just like the Joker in Dark Knight, she always makes up a new story of how she died, and she does drugs, and she's like, it's very adult oriented.
Yeah.
But going back to what you were saying, we literally made it so that there's a character for everyone. So if you have some weird kink or a weird thing you're into, or something you love, or like a look you love, or a personality you love, there is someone in the game for you. We went out of our way to make it the most welcoming thing we could do. And so, there's definitely something in there for you. But also, we wanted, because if I'm going to be involved, I want to make things a little bit like, wait, what the hell? So for people who play Monster Road Trip, the most recent couple of patches have added like a trippy as hell story, one that makes you think like, wait, is this even, what is happening? Like, that kind of stuff. I love doing that. So we have all that in there. But at the end of the day, it's just a party game. And if you play it once and you have fun, then that's really all that matters.
That sounds amazing, actually. Yeah. It sounds like a game that it would be dangerous for me to play because I tend to get sucked into these types of games. That's one of the reasons I got sucked into Genshin, because they also are very good at making sure that there's a character for everybody, no matter who you are. They got you covered in it. Now, I did want to ask you, of course, about the Game Awards. You went to the Game Awards. You were there.
I did.
I did notice that you were sitting next to Ben Starr. I actually have this.
Oh no, you have the
Oh, you know what I'm about to pull up, Jesse. You know exactly what it is.
shining bright. Yeah.
Yes. Here is Jesse next to Ben Starr, who is a literal star. So I just wanted to ask you, did you sit next to Ben Starr to make sure that he would be okay while he was transforming into a Sin Eater? Like, was he okay after enduring that?
His last name is Starr, so he was already prepared, I think. But he, I was so, I don't know how this happened. I guess because I'm just, I think because I've done enough stuff over the years that I was invited to interview all the voice actors for Final Fantasy XVI. And Ben's just like, he and I clicked as like friends. And so I talk to him all the time. And he messaged me like, hey, I'm going to the Game Awards. Would you be my +1? And I was like, bro, in a heartbeat.
That's awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Plus, I got to be a +1, and that's never happened to me before, so I felt like I had to be the attractive one, which I get it. I clearly was. And so
was it different than you expected being at the Game Awards? Was there anything that was surprising
yes.
to you?
Oh, my God, yes. So I think like most streamers, I've never gone to the game. I would sit here and stream it, right? And I just like sassy talk it the entire time.
Right.
Going there was, especially as a +1 to someone who's red carpeting, going there was crazy. When we showed up, Ben was like, hey, meet me at the JW hotel that's across the street from the event. I walk in, the hotel's filled with like the biggest names in gaming. It's absolutely crazy. And I was like, what the hell is going on? So I find Ben, he's like, all right, we got to go to this parking garage. I'm like, what? And so we go to this park, like all through downtown LA to this parking garage. And then in the parking garage, we go like all through this stuff in order to get badges and pins and all sorts of things that they need us to have. Because I guess once you agree to be a nominee or whatever, you are property for the night of the Game Awards. So you had like, if you were going to be on stage, you had to have a little pin on. You had to do all, but you know, we went through and there was a metal detector thing, and there was a hold up at the metal detector. So in front of me at the metal detector is Matthew McConaughey, and behind me at the metal detector, yeah, I know. And behind me at the metal detector, well, I guess right next to us was also Matt Mercer, and Marissa. Yeah, Marissa and Matt are next to us, and I love them. I've known them for years, and so like that was pretty cool to hang out and talk with them. But
oh my God.
Behind us was one of my favorite character actors in the world. He's in the Fallout show, Walton Goggins. If you know who this guy is, I guarantee everyone knows who he is because he's in so much stuff. But he was behind us. And so when we get up to the metal detector, I get stopped, like grabbed by some security guys like, do you have a pin? Do you have the right pin? I'm like, because at the time I had the flag, the Rosaria flag from Final Fantasy 16. And they were like, you had the right pin? And Ben was like, he's not going on stage. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going up with him if he wins. I'm just going to be in the audience. And they're like, okay. It's like, yeah, I'm just here to have fun. And Walton Goggins behind me was like, hey, man, I'm just here to have fun, too. And then I started talking to Walton Goggins, and I was like, oh, it was the best.
So cool. Oh, my God.
That was great. We got to the awards. We sit down. We're in, like, the first 3 rows. It was really cool. Todd Howard was in front of us, which was ridiculous. So there's a clip of they pan to Todd Howard, and behind me is my shirt, my Soken shirt. And I literally just go, like, it's so ridiculous.
Oh, man, I gotta find it.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I would have asked
I think
Todd
I saw
Howard
Asmund.
been, like, tapping
Yeah, I
on
think I
his
saw
shoulder.
Asmund was watching a video of Todd Howard, and you can just see my shirt behind it, and it's just Soken, and it says, do you know Lahi?
Nice.
So, yeah.
I did see your shirt, yeah.
But being there, actually, at the event, it's weird because it is very clearly we were more set pieces than we were an audience, right?
Yeah.
So they would move people around. They'd change the locations to get a better angle on them. Like Todd Howard wasn't in front of us the entire time.
What?
He moved to different seats so they could get better angles on him.
I didn't know that. I thought people just sit where they sit, and then.
No.
Wait, does that mean they deliberately put Ben Starr in the light?
Well, those were definitely our seats.
Okay.
The problem was, I think because a lot of it was, I don't want to say robot operated, but probably operated somewhere else on site. Like a great example is a lot of the cameras that were in front of us would move around because they were robot cameras. It was crazy. And a lot of the time there was tech people standing in front of our seats. Ben and I couldn't see half the show. It was crazy. And so what happened is, I think, because I saw other clips, another example is, I think after the one of the awards for something, they showed a crowd shot and the light is still on Ben. So I think that was a light that either broke or moved or something and just shined on him the entire time.
No, I think it's obvious what happened. Like, he's clearly just, can you tell Ben Starr to stop absorbing light? Okay, because it's getting dark at like 4 p.m. here,
possible.
and he needs to cut it out. Okay,
I don't think it's possible. He shines so bright.
He's shining way too bright. So another thing I wanted to ask is, are you after seeing the Game Awards and everything, are there any upcoming games or MMOs that you're really looking forward to?
I mean, like, obviously Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is like on my radar. That's like soon. Less than 3 months away, so I'm psyched for that. I'm trying to think. There were some games I was like, oh, like the new Monster Hunter looked cool as hell. I've no idea what that's actually gonna be, but that looked cool. I remember being very impressed by oh man, you know what? I'm just gonna cheat. I'm gonna cheat right now. Hold on.
It's
Game Awards games?
I mean, it doesn't have to be a game from the Game Awards. Like, it's just anything on your mind lately that you've been thinking about, looking forward to playing. Like, it doesn't have to be.
Oh, I mean, yes, there's a lot of stuff. The one that got me the most hype, which is weird, was all the Sega releases, the crazy like Sega trailer. That was nostalgia. That was pure nostalgia for me. Yeah,
they did such a good job.
I was blown away by that.
The music is very cool. It's banging for this.
Yeah, I'm excited for like Crazy Taxi and Jet Set Radio were just games.
Sonic.
Love. Most of it was kind of whatevs, sadly. But there were some games, like I think I don't know what it's called, but the game that was by the Ori devs, that looked cool. We got a reveal trailer. I don't remember what it was, but it seemed like an ARPG, like a Diablo ARPG kind of vibe. But I can't remember what that one was called, but that looked cool as hell. And there was a game called, it is so indie, but I love the idea. I think it's called Big Walk, I think. And it's the one where it's the people that look like those like honky ducks. And it was like people in the distance, and they could see their friends. And it was just a game where you like walk around, meet your friends, and go on weird adventures. That looks so cool. I loved every minute of that. Sometimes I like weird games. Like I played a game at Summer Games Fest back in the summer, where the whole point was you're a girl in her room packing up to go leave, right? I'm sure there's more to the story, but you're packing up to go leave, and the whole thing is like everything in the room brings back a memory. But it's just a chill ass game that I imagine if someone were to get high, it would be the best game to play. Because every level is based on a record. So when you put the record down, the level starts. And when you pick the record up to stop it, you move on to the next level. So you can stay there as long as you want, listening to chill jams. And I was like, this is such a vibe that I love kind of stuff like that. Where it's just, sometimes it's barely a game. It's barely a game.
I agree. I think that's really a magical thing games can sometimes do, is just guide your experience for a while. It's so interesting. Yeah. I love video games as an art form because it's just so many different ways that you can go through them and feel different emotions for no matter it's a full artistic experience, right?
Yeah, speaking of emotions, I totally forgot the Hellblade sequel. Have you played the original Hellblade?
I didn't. Oh wait.
Oh my.
No wait, I did play some. Oh wait, I played like half of it, I think, and then I got distracted.
It's a lot. That first game.
It's a lot.
I remember being in, I think it's like level 2. You're walking through a swamp, and in your ears, in the headphones, there's people being like, "Run, run!" I'm like, "What?"
Remember that?
That game's terrifying.
Terrifying.
Yeah,
So
I
good,
love that.
though.
So I'm excited for the
It's
sequel.
such a funny thing about talking about video games. Like, God, that was horrible. I was so scared. It drove me insane. I had nightmares.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
It's so funny, like how that is. I know that obviously, Baldur's Gate 3, when it took it home for the Game Awards, and it was absolutely deserved. I've played a good bit of it. I still need to I want to start fresh and do a no save scumming run, but I know that you have enjoyed it quite a bit. I saw one of your clips on Twitter where you were talking about His Majesty, the best character in Baldur's Gate 3. It was a delight. So just talk about Baldur's Gate 3 for a little bit. Do you feel like it will actually set a new standard for RPGs? And do you think that's even possible for anyone to follow in the footsteps of...
I hope so.
I hope so too.
I hope that it will be like Witcher was for open world games. Where Witcher set, like up until that point, open world was one thing, then Witcher 3 came along and changed that thing, and everyone else tried to keep up to that.
Yeah.
And I hope that as an RPG standard about like the crafting and story and options, the amount of options of things to do in Baldur's Gate 3 is insane.
Yes.
I have played the game now. I literally just 2 nights ago finished my main campaign. I got what I consider to be the best ending. I put in 120 hours into that one campaign. Finally beat it. I also have 3 side campaigns, one that I'm doing with friends, one that I tried on PlayStation just to see what that was like, and one that I started, which was basically I decided to play Dark Urge in my main campaign, but I wanted to be Dark Urge who rejects it, right? Because I just wanted to test if you could do that. Spoilers, you can, and it's amazing.
What?
But I know, it's pretty cool. But I also wanted to be like, all right, let's make a side campaign, exact same character, exact same thing, except I give into the Dark Urge, just so I could see what that was like.
Yeah.
You're a murder hobo. Everyone in Act 1 I killed. Everyone.
Oh my
I
God.
was like Anakin Skywalker. The men, the women, the children, everyone died. It was crazy.
No.
But it's fun to see the differences and also to how your characters will react to that. I was like, okay. So what's even more crazy is I completed the game after X number of insane hours and then was like, I can't wait to go back and make an evil character, but not Dark Urge evil, just like an asshole, and see what that's like. And there's so many, every time I've played, I've seen new things, which just goes to show how much there is and how big of a world it is, even though really at the end of the day, it's not that huge. There's just so much options and storytelling and things to do. I hope we'll get that in future games, but I have a feeling a lot. I don't think it's a dev thing. I think it's a like executive C-suite corporate thing that they're going to be like, oh, we can't, we're not them. We can't do that. We're going to stick to what we know, which unfortunately for Bethesda is like, what you know is what was cool 10 years ago, sadly.
Oh, I don't think so. Because they're going to have Elder Scrolls 6 and it's going to be as good as Skyrim. Totally.
We shall see.
Don't ruin this for me. I've been coping for like years already.
Like, I hope it's like, I'm not sitting here being like, God, they suck. I hope Elder Scrolls 6 is good. I hope Skyrim's amazing. I hope it's good.
Great.
But at the same time, we see stuff like the things coming out of BioWare, which is like, okay, so you've gotten rid of everyone who made your entire like Dragon Age saga good. You've kicked them out. So like, what's this next game even going to be? Right. And yeah, I don't know. I genuinely don't know, but my hope is that people will take notes, which is usually what the game industry does. Like WoW was huge and everyone tried to make a WoW clone, and League was huge and everyone tried to make a League clone. So my hope is there's going to be more people out there who are like, let's make some good ass games. The problem is it takes a long time and a lot of money to get it right. And if you don't, we'll never see it again. Like if like EA, for example, makes their version of Baldur's Gate and it sucks, we'll never get them attempting it again.
Yeah.
And then the genre will kind of like fade away unless Larian makes another one.
Yeah, the thing is, around this whole discussion about, will BG3 set a new standard, there was this stuff floating around the internet about like these devs who were complaining that, don't expect games to be as good as BG3. But I feel like that whole narrative I think it was like 2 people that said this maybe, and then it ended up getting
Sure.
spread all over the internet. Like it was all other devs are saying it. Like all other devs see this game and cower in fear of what Larian has created, and how could any ever aspire to such great heights? Like I feel like there's this tendency on social media to champion the things we love to ridiculous degrees while poo-pooing everything else. And I feel like sometimes these narratives can take on a life of their own.
I absolutely feel that way about 14, for example. Final Fantasy 14, people love the champion of the game to the point where they're like, I mean, there's flaws. It's not perfect. It'll never be perfect. Most games aren't. But, like, it's okay if someone you know likes something better than 14. Like, it's chill, everyone. And I think same thing with Baldur's Gate. The fandom is huge, and they're passionate, and they love it. And, you know, if some devs are like, look, that's not going to happen, or, you know, if they give you examples, it's my advice to everyone in the world is, yo, if you have a hot take, start to write it, look at it, wait a couple hours before you press send.
Yes.
Like, just let it simmer a bit.
It's really
because
good advice.
maybe as a dev, you shouldn't, like, leave your hot takes that are like, well, these other devs, like, don't shit talk other devs. Let it be.
Yes.
You know, worry about yourself. Worry about your own game, that kind of thing. And at the same time, when you're, you know, a fan of something, don't immediately jump on people when they have an opinion that differs from yours. It doesn't make yours more valid because you're angrier when you say it. It's just, hey, man, everyone can like what they like. Chill out. It's cool. There's so many games that exist. There's something for everyone. Like, I suck at Souls-likes. I am terrible at them. I will never try to play them. And at the same time, I get the passion for them. I understand when people have those conversations that are like, man, all games should have difficulty sliders, and the Souls games are so... Like, it's cool. Let them play what they want. Let the devs make what they want. And, you know, I will watch friends play through those games, and I'll enjoy every minute of it. I'll be like, damn, they're so good at this. Like, how do they do that fight? That's so cool. Like, it's chill. It's chill to just enjoy stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
And if you don't enjoy it, like you said, it's amazing to be able to appreciate other people's enthusiasm for something.
Yeah.
There's this whole world of people enjoying things that it's like, just let people enjoy things.
Yeah, it's fine to enjoy what you want to enjoy. And if you hate something, well, they're not asking you to play it. You know, you don't have to do it. And I think that happens a lot to streamers where they'll move on to a game, or they'll play a game and decide it's not for them and be like, you know what, I'm over it. And people just get like really upset. They didn't like the thing. This goes back, I think, to watching people not react to certain points in Final Fantasy XIV.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like everyone's gonna be different, and it's fine if they didn't bawl their eyes out during a scene that made you cry. Like, it's okay. It's okay. That's what everyone's experience is different. Maybe it lands with you differently because you're closer connected to what was happening on screen versus them. Also, I will say, you know what this is? I'm hypocritical. I will say, one of the things I hate the most is when I watch, and I am a emotional vampire when it comes to 14. I will watch people play. I think I might have watched every Shadowbringers ending reaction video that exists on the internet.
Oh my God.
And one of the things I realized is whether people are crying or happy or excited or whatever, it's fine. But the minute, if a major thing is happening on screen and you can see them turning, reading chat, I lose my mind. I go nuts. I'm like, what? Do you not care? Oh yeah, that gets me. I will admit I'm hypocritical about that. Yeah.
That's fair, because you don't want to put judgment on how they should react, but at the very least you want them to be paying attention.
Yeah, pay attention to what you're doing. Yes.
At least pay attention to what you were doing. Yeah. So we mentioned this a little bit earlier, but you are a producer and you have an upcoming point and click adventure game called Excuse Me Sir. Could you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah. So I actually, before we get to that, I have several up-and-coming games.
Oh, okay.
I have a game that is a Metroidvania called Gestalt Steam and Cinder, which is, you can wishlist it now over on Steam. Nice. It's sort of like a pixel Metroidvania. You play, spoiler, a badass redhead, and she goes around and stabs things and shoot things, and it's great. And then great. I'm working on an FMV game with one of my favorite FMV actors, Rupert Booth, who is... We're making the craziest, when I say craziest FMV game, I mean that. And we're going to start shooting it, the live action bits, between March and May of this year at some point. So we're going to start that. And then, excuse me, sir, is a game that for years and years and years, Erdorf, who's one of my favorite devs in the world, who made a series of games called Faith, which I never thought I could be actually scared of an Atari-looking horror game, but it's genuinely scary and awesome. And he does like rotoscope cutscenes, which are very cool. So I love that. And then we played a game in something called the Dread X Collection, which is a series of very short horror games by a dev, Torpal Duke. And so we've just been sitting there talking, hanging out, trying to figure out what we could make together, because I've always wanted to make a horror game. And it wasn't until I found on TikTok, this girl, Molly Moon, is a sweetheart. She, on TikTok, made a series of... if you follow her career, it is amazing. So she does everything by herself. She does the edits, she does the recordings, she does all of it by herself. And originally, it started with what is very clearly just clickbait, which is like her in a low-cut outfit, and she'd walk up and be like, "Excuse me, sir, can you help me find my, cat?" And it would be one of those things where it was a short TikTok, but the idea was like, if you help me, maybe I'll give you something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, I don't know when it changed, but it morphed into scary, where she would be like, "Excuse me, sir, I can't, fix my tire. Can you help me?" And then the camera would kneel down and you go to fix the tire, but the tire would be fine. And then it would turn around and she'd have the tire wrench behind her and she'd hit you or something. And it's like, okay. And it started to get more and more creepy.
It's like lore getting added to this.
Yeah.
universe.
And then what happened is she transitioned again, where what she was doing was basically a video game where she pixelated everything. And then rather than just I'm talking to you right now, she'd do that thing where her mouth went, and then, a voiceover would come out. And the one that got me was she was like, "Excuse me, sir, can you help me find my cat?" So you go into her apartment, but then it has the arrows and the point and click movement stuff.
Okay.
You can look around, but it's all on TikTok. So it's just doing it by itself, but it feels like an old late 90s game where you're point and clicking and you turn and you look in a drawer, it opens a drawer, and in the drawer is a bunch of men's IDs. And the best part was the cat comes around the corner and the cat's like, "You got to get out of here." Right. And I was like, what the hell is happening right now? And it's so bizarre and weird.
Bro, cat.
And so I was like, we got to reach out to this girl. And so we posted online, "We would love to do something with you." And she was like, "I would love to do something with you." And
Nice.
so we got together, and because she does the majority of the filming and the ideas and the concepts, it's really her baby, and we're just making it.
I see.
And we got Trevor Henderson, the guy who makes he's the Siren Head dude. If you've ever seen that cryptid monster meme, he's an amazing horror artist. We got him to come and help work on it. And so it's this group of us making this game where it is essentially the demo exists right now just to see, test the waters and see what people liked or didn't like.
Okay.
And it is straight up just a old school kind of horror game that we're going to do so much more with than we actually did. We just want to see if we can do it. It's free. It's over on itch.io.
Okay.
There's going to be a Steam page soon where you can wishlist it or check out the demo or whatever. But I have a bunch of really creepy ideas. And just to give you an example of where I'm willing to go, when we did promotion for the demo, Molly made a video that is her bloodily giving birth to the game.
Oh, cool.
It's so creepy and weird.
Oh,
and I was like,
metal as fuck.
I was like, Molly,
Yes.
don't hide that. We want that in the game.
Of
As
course.
all the weird stuff you want to do, let's get weird with it.
Weird as possible. I totally
Yeah.
agree.
So that's, and we're taking a break. We're chilling because it's the holiday season and no one's going to do a damn thing till after January 1st. So, in January, we're all going to get back together, and fingers crossed we can get the game, because it's not crazy digital programming. Hopefully by October next year, you'll have a full game with some really weird stuff in it for Halloween. So that should be fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, man, you got me thinking about these old school point and click adventure. Did you ever play Sam and Max Hit the Road?
Love that. All LucasArts
so
games,
much.
Indiana Jones, and I think The Fate of Atlantis. That game's amazing.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I loved all of those.
That's
Yes.
the OG Bunny Boy game. Sam and Max Hit the
Yep.
Road. You should play it if you haven't played it, people.
It's so good. It's
Did you?
so.
Go ahead.
I no. I'm trying to think. I'm. It was the 11th hour and the 7th guest. I think are the names of those games. Those games are very good too. Those weird sort of point and click, but also live action actors. I know they released the 7th guest VR. I have yet to play it, but that's right up my Day of the Tentacle. Good job, chat. Day of the Tentacle is also very good.
Yeah. What about? Well, this is not old. This is a new one. Have you played Doki Doki Literature Club?
The worst part is Dodger and I played that not knowing what it was.
Oh, nice.
So by the time the first thing happens, we
Nice.
were like, what the shit? It was great. I love it. Love it. Yeah.
Fantastic. So one thing I want to ask is sort of, we got to wrap up here, is as a producer, if you could make your dream game without any financial limitation, what kind of genre do you think you would do? Like, what kind of story? Do you have any idea?
Oh, I mean, if I had the ability and the team to make a game, I would make an incredible, trippy, kind of like very meta RPG where it would be like it would be an RPG, but also like just trippy as hell. Like I love one of my I like the Remedy games. I love them as they are because they're very weird. But one of my favorite all-time game devs is Daniel Mullins, indie dev who only recently blew up, but has been making games for years. And if you played the game Inscription, that is his game, and that's the game that it starts with a card game and ends up in insanity.
Nice.
And he is amazing. And the very first game of his that got my attention was a game called Pony Island. And it starts out as a just shitty arcade game where you're hopping as a little pony. It looks like a terrible, not even a Game Boy game, like one of those ones that you get the bootleg Game Boys that only had one game on it, like the whatever they were called, like the
I remember.
and it's just this pony thing, and it devolves into madness so quickly.
Nice.
It's an amazing game that will drive you insane. And they're releasing a Pony Island 2, I guess is the next game he's working on, which I'm so excited for. But he has a game called The Hex, which is about, the premise is, what if video game characters were real? What would they do in their off time? And then imagine someone said, one of you will die tonight. Like that kind of idea. He's made little short game. He made one short game. If you want a really quick game that you're like, what the hell am I playing? Look up a game called Boba by Daniel Mullins. It is free to play.
Right.
It is very short and it is insane. It's very like, and it's not like creepy or scary. It's just like, wait, what the hell is happening? And I love that kind of stuff. He's very good at thinking outside the box. I would take those as like a great example is in one of his games. I don't know how well it works anymore because they changed the Steam UI, but originally in one of his games, and I'm not gonna tell you which one, but in one of his games, there's a moment where they show you reviews of the first of a game, where they're like, the first game came out and it's amazing, and the reviews that pop up on your screen are Steam reviews by people on your friends list.
Oh,
I don't know how he pulled this off. It's amazing. But as the games come out, by the time it gets like the third or fourth or fifth game, the game sucks. And so it's still your same friends on your friends list, but just shitting on the game. And it's so good.
That's great.
And it's funny to see which friends pop up. And I have no idea how he did it. I'm sure there's some back end thing that he did, but it's incredible to see what he can come up with and how he can manipulate the various things you're using, be it your own computer or other stuff. That's what I want to do. I want to, even in Excuse Me, Sir, I had an idea, and I'm not going to spoil it, but I had an idea where I was like, okay, if the game is about you searching for your brother and this girl shows up to, like the concept we want to do is it's episodic, not released episodically, but it's one game, but there's different episodes. So it's different locations that you go to. But the whole story is you keep looking for your brother. And the question that I had was, well, how do we make this weirder than it already is? Yeah. And I want to have a through line that makes it really creepy and strange, but in like a bizarre, what are we actually playing kind of way?
Yeah.
And I think I've got an idea, and I think it's going to be great. But that kind of stuff I love. I love games that make you uncomfortable, that make you question what you're doing, that aren't just scary, there's like something weird about it, and it's that edge of, is this actually scary? A great example is last night I played a game called Ready or Not, which, by the way, I have to play again because I imagine with friends it's even better. But it's literally just, you are in a bootleg version of LA and you're a SWAT team, and you go around and you like have to resolve SWAT problems, right? It's first person. You have loadouts of like, different guns and whatever. But on the third level, you go to stop a meth lab. And in the meth lab, in these two houses, are like creepy drawings and weird symbols and images of what I'm telling you is the Babadook. I don't know what's good. It is so weird. And I know that's not the point, but I love that level because they made it weird. There's a brilliant, years and years ago, the original Dead Space devs did a talk where they talked about adding stuff to the game and how you can keep people interested. And what they said, and this was about, I don't know if you ever played Dead Space, anyone in the audience or whatever, but in Dead Space, there's this thing called Peng. It serves no purpose, but there's signs for it everywhere. There are like things that's like, gotta have Peng. And people are like, Peng is the best. And it makes no damn sense. But the genius of it is they added it because years before they watched a conference, like I was watching of theirs, and they said, we were watching this conference, and this dude was like, hey, if you make a game, the best way to keep players interested, imagine you're making a Call of Duty or some sort of war game. Have a cutscene at the beginning of the level that shows 3 tanks entering a town. But at the last minute, 1 tank veers off to the right or to the left or wherever. In your game, only ever include 2 tanks. Players will be freaking out about Tank 3 the entire time. They'll spend years trying to figure out where Tank 3 went. They'll try to unlock Tank 3.
Absolutely, yeah.
And
it's
they're like, do
that we talked about earlier today.
Yep.
That is so, like, it's so, I feel like, I know we live in a society and all that, but I'm about to go on a we live in a society speech about how we value the answer more than the question. We value the goal more than the destination, but really we got it backwards. And what we don't realize is that it is that journey and the not knowing that gives things magic, and that really keeps you holding on to find out what happens. Like you're talking about like trippy lore, and this is one of the reasons why I'm so obsessed with the Elder Scrolls series, is because I love how insane Elder Scrolls lore is. And it's insane because of Michael Kirkbride, who literally wrote the Morrowind lore tripping balls on mushrooms the entire time. And he came up with like amazing, like divine inspired lore for this game, where like there's stuff that today, every day, people are still asking, like, what is Kim? What is Chim? Like, what is this state? Like, how can you achieve this, like, dissolution of the self? Is any of this real? Are we living in the head of the player? He involved the player in some way with some of his lore? And even this just back end lore, this is stuff that has kept Elder Scrolls series lore like enduring for so many generations now.
And what's brilliant about Elder Scrolls is they don't, like, each game is just one part of a bigger world. And so they don't have to give you massive answers. It's not needed. There's these Elder Scrolls and they tell this weird ass tale, but other than that, it's open to interpretation. Let's get crazy. It reminds me of
I love that.
The first Dishonored as a franchise kind of fizzled out, but the first game was brilliant because it literally just took place in like steampunk England, basically. But they said numerous times in numerous books that there is out there a continent that they've tried to settle, and every time they send people there, it ends very badly. In the waters, there's Leviathan-like beasts that they think, which, by the way, they hunt them and they use their oil to power their society, but they are, in theory, smarter and more powerful and more benevolent than humans. There's this world they created that's so insane, and you're like, I love this. I love the fact that there's all this stuff outside of what we're doing that means something, and we're just not ever going to see it. And I love that kind of stuff because it gives me hope that, like, okay, what else? Same with 14. The concept of what the New World was sort of amorphous and kind of cool, but we knew it was there. Now that we're going there, it's like, okay, so what are we actually going to get? And is it going to be answers that I like? You know what I mean? And that's, it could be a worry. It could be too much we learn, right? So who knows?
We're going to find the Eliminator there, apparently.
I guess.
They sold us. And, but yeah, Elder Scrolls, something that I think Elder Scrolls has always done that well. I mean, the Dwemer, we still have no idea where they are. The Falmer Snow Elves, what happened with them? Like, there's so much we don't know.
Yeah.
But, okay, so I really have to wrap it up. It's so hard. It's like, I said, okay, it's going to be an hour and a half. And we're like, pushing an hour and a half. I'm like, okay, but I know I have to wrap it up. Okay, so I have to ask you, Jesse, do you think I did a good job?
You did great. This isn't even fake praise.
Because you're a big podcaster and I don't know what I'm doing. So thank you.
No, you clearly know what you're doing because you, 1, had questions, 2, formatted them well, and 3, didn't just stick to like.
I don't like to just stick to questions. That's boring.
Yeah, you didn't. You responded to what was being talked about in the moment, which is the most important thing. And yeah.
All right, I was just wondering. You don't have to...
Yeah, and more importantly, you made me feel loved, and that's all that matters, really, at the end of the day.
I do love you, Jesse. I'm so excited to have a chance to talk to you. Oh my god, it's so excited. It was like I've been looking forward to this discussion for a while, so I hope that you'll come back on and
of course
in the future. But if there's anything else that you want to share with the audience, any socials you want to plug or whatnot, we can do that. And before we wrap things up, go on.
Yeah. Hey everybody. Jesse Cox. I am literally all over the internet at Jesse Cox, or unless it's TikTok because someone stole Jesse Cox and they stole Jesse Talks and they stole Cox Talks. So it's Jesse Cox TikToks. Story of my life. That's really.
You should make one called Jesse Big Cox.
You know what? I wish on Instagram. On Instagram, I'm Notorious COX if that helps.
That's
so
funny.
that works. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of everywhere, and I've been doing this for way too long. Some might say too long. I'm not a millionaire yet, which let's get on that. I figured this whole streamer thing would pay off eventually. Sadly, no. But yeah, and then the big thing we're doing right now is Geekenders. It's every Friday at 8 a.m. on Dodger's channel, twitch.tv/DexBonus, and then the VOD is over on my YouTube later in the day at some point. And of course, because you had me on yours, obviously the invitation to come on Geekenders is open to you.
No
way. We're trying to plan guests for the new year, so I will absolutely harass you at some point. Come on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm gonna be shy over there because this is like my podcast, so I can be like. But if I'm over there, I'm gonna be so peepo shy.
No way. Let me tell you something. I think we released a short of it, and I'll send you the link so you can understand what kind of podcast it is. Literally, we had a conversation about one of the games that was at the Game Awards, and it's a game about like the basic premise was a bunch of kids being protected by robot moms, and then a dude comes in and punches the robot mom's face off, and then like some badass lady comes in and kills all the bad guys, right? And we were trying to explain it, and Dodger goes, "Oh, so like Dumbo?" And we were like, "What do you mean Dumbo?" And then she proceeds to laugh for 20 minutes because she didn't understand what we were trying to say. And we were like, "What do you mean Dumbo?" And she's like, "Well, because they had a mom, and then the mom got separated from." And we were like, "Everyone has a mom, Dodger. What are you talking about?" Like that kind of. And then my response to it was, I said, I replied eventually after her 20-minute laugh fit. I said, "Dumbo, Pinocchio, man, a lot of movies have an O at the end." And everyone was like, "What?" That's what you. So trust me when I say
I'll fit in well there.
You'll be fine.
Yeah,
you'll be okay.
That's exactly how I have normal conversations also. So that's good. Anyway, Jesse, before I end up making this really, really long, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And hope to see you again soon.
Of course. I'll be around. I'll see you, I'm sure.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.